If you've ever had to wear a mask at work and you're wondering if there's a better way to spend the next few decades of your life, this episode is for you. Welcome to Spilling the Jasmine Tea, where we unpack culture, identity, and the taboo topics we often grew up whispering about. Like today's episode about how we got here, building our businesses on our own terms. I grew up watching my parents pour everything into their business, their bakery, and making it work, creating a successful business. So when I realized that I didn't want to find a job and squeeze myself into a box that was never made for me, starting my own business felt like the only honest option. But freedom after a lifetime of constraint isn't always as simple as it sounds. I ended up recreating some of the conditions that I was trying to escape: overworking, burning out, and wearing a mask to be a good business owner. They say that running your business is the best personal development course that you'll ever do, and I've never known anything more true. In this episode, Vianne and I shared the unexpected experiences that led to us creating our businesses, how that influenced what we've created, and our vision moving forward. Brew yourself a cup of tea, maybe jasmine, and sip along as we spill the jasmine tea.
Essentially, I wanted to tell the story of how did we get to know each other and our first impressions.
Oh, first impressions, okay.
As part of the story, right? How did we get to know?
Yes.
So I don't think I've actually told you before.
Okay,
How-
I'm scared.
No need to be scared. The first impression was coming across your Instagram, and it was through your advocacy for Palestine, running events combining with your dietitian expertise. And I was like, what? There is this activist was the first word that came to mind. And I was like, oh my gosh, and she's a Vietnamese woman and she's got a holistic framework of health, non-diet dietitian. Wow. Oh my gosh, I want to be friends. That was my first impression. I was so blown away at all the intersections that you presented online.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I am shy, so I did not reach out. I was just like, I'll be a fan from a distance. And I was probably telling some people, oh my gosh, I came across this amazing account.
Oh.
She's an advocate, activist, Vietnamese woman, dietitian, health practitioner. And then my friend, Jen, that's my cousin.
Oh my god.
I was like, what?
That's so
What a
funny.
small world. And so she's like, do you want me to introduce you? And so that's how it happened.
Oh
And
my
my
God.
first impression has not changed that much. I'm just laughing at my fingers getting tickled. So my first impression is still similar. I've described you as bold and an actions person. But yes, getting to know other sides, of you, like the well-rounded human, has been such a pleasure. So yes, there's no reason to be scared.
That's so funny. Yeah, I've heard that before actually. I didn't know that. That was like the workings behind how we met.
Yes, that's how it happened.
Because my memory of that was Jenny was like, oh, like I have a friend that I want to link you up with. I wonder if you know her, Vianne. And I was like, that's familiar. I'm pretty sure I follow her on Instagram. And then I checked and I did. And I was like, oh, I don't remember when or where or why I followed you, but like I knew, I know your content, I know your work at the back of my mind somewhere. That's crazy that it is small world.
We came into each other's orbit before fully getting to meet each other, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Aww.
Yeah. And yeah, she was like, oh, she's a psychologist. I think you guys get along really well. And I was like, yeah, cool. Like, yeah, keen to link up. I can't remember if we had the picnic first or we had the Women's Health Week live.
Instagram for
The
life
live
first.
I was looking at people to collab with for that. When I looked you up, I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. I felt like we were on the same kind of wavelength with approach to health. And yeah, again, like being Asian, Australian, more in the holistic approach. And I really love your work in that it's really targeting this niche of Asian Australians in mental health. And I know you're more in org psych as well. I haven't come across anyone at that time that was talking about these things before because it's so nuanced. I went to a therapist for a little bit a couple of years ago, and when I said that I chose her because she's Asian, she was, oh, that shouldn't matter.
interesting response.
Yeah. She's like, oh, all therapists should have the same skills. And everyone has the same, parents have high expectations and whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Yeah.
Wow. I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But wow, so it sounds like we had similar values from the beginning, and maybe that is how we came together, and that it was right. It was a great match. Now here we are, spilling the jasmine tea together.
Yeah. Yeah, everything that was very organic after that. We had to meet at the picnic, and then we just started co-working together.
Yeah.
And then we were in talks about the podcast, and it just naturally fell in together.
Yeah.
And I think as business owners, we can be very like, oh, new idea, and then it doesn't really follow through. But this happens so like organically.
It did, and also I keep thinking about how, as much as we have similar values, I think we're very different people, but not in a clashing way, which is new for me. So I described you before as a very actions person. I feel like you're good at ideating and then making it happen. And I know for myself, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can hold me back is when I sit on an idea, it can end up sitting on that idea for a really long time. I'm thinking this person, thinking too much sometimes.
Yeah, but then it's like there's so much merit to that as well, because you've taught me to like pause and really reflect before making a decision rather than just like rashly making a decision. That's something I admire in you as well. The way that you speak is so eloquent, and like listening to you is just so nice, so easeful.
Oh, that's so sweet. And I feel like it is very yin yang, because I described you as bold as well. I'm okay at the calm energy when needed, but then when you need to be assertive and bold or loud in some way, I really struggle as much as I want to.
Like the clap.
Like the clap at the beginning of every podcast.
We clap to align everything. And
my claps are like...
we're working on it. But the other thing is, I think you're really good at setting boundaries.
Ooh.
In a very like easeful way. In that when I suggest something and you're like, basically like internally like, oh, I don't know about that. You're just like, I don't know how we do it. I think you need to give us a lesson that you just do it in such a way that I'll consider it, but probably not. But in a way that's just, oh, that's cool. But I appreciate that so much more than someone being like automatically like saying, oh yeah, like being enthusiastic about it when they're not actually. And then when I try to follow up with it, they're just like non-verbal, like, you know, deflective or something about that. Okay, so you said yes to try to look nice, but then when it comes down to it, I'm like putting effort into this, and that wasn't something that was aligned with you in the first place. So now I'm just like wasting my energy, you know?
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. I'm glad it comes across gentle. One of my values is to be reliable or consistent kind of thing. And I'm going to generalize, but something that I've experienced is when you meet people who are that stereotypical extrovert who makes friends with everyone, and then in the first conversation they make you feel like you're part of the family. And I would feel so welcomed when I would meet these types of people, but then the next time I meet them and they can't remember who I am, like, what was that? I thought you knew me because you made me feel like we've been friends for a long time or something. So I was like, I think I prefer that kind of consistency where other people will always kind of know where I stand rather than be misled or something. And it's even got to the point, sometimes I realise I don't like to say, see you soon, I'm not going to see this person. I'm just going to say something else that's more accurate. Bye. Bye now. That's my latest one.
I love it because I do the see you soon, but in my head I'm like, wait, but I probably won't see you at all ever again. But yeah, I clock it, but it's just like an automatic thing. So yeah, I like that. Being honest and we're like, yeah, we really are like yin and yang. Yeah. Like,
so lucky that it's different but actually complements each other, not clashing. I'm curious on how your values have shaped your business today, and that's really the topic we want to get into is as business owners, but our own flavour of business owner. What's your story of how you got started and where you are today?
Such a
big question.
Big story. Yes. So I haven't always been a dietitian. It was not my first career, the girl job.
What?
I was actually a scuba instructor before.
Scuba instructor.
Yeah, before this. So that was like a point in my life. That was like my initial career. But when COVID hit, that obviously just killed the industry, killed traveling. And so I came back to Melbourne. I was like, what am I meant to do? And at the time, I had this really interesting feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life, but I trust that everything I do, I was just doing like temp jobs. Any temp job that I do is going to help me with the next thing that I'm doing. I had like a temp job that was like, I transcribed this CEO of a nursing home voice note. Like one day job. Yeah, it was so random.
It's so funny. That's the kind of job replaced by AI now, though.
Yeah, I'm surprised even at that point that
it wasn't just an app.
Yeah, I was just doing random little temp jobs, and eventually I was like, well, what if I started an Instagram originally was meant to be for like diving and things like that?
Whoa.
Yeah. So funny.
Yeah.
Diving and travel. I wanted to be like a diving travel influencer kind of vibe.
Whoa.
But that was really settling in, and we were like, okay, this is 2020. This is a long-term thing. And I was like, okay, what if I slipped some dietitian things in there? Because, you know, I have this degree. We might as well use it. So I started that, and then I was getting confused because there was just so many things going on at once. And eventually I was like, okay, I think the dietitian pathway is the more sustainable path. That's really how I started my business.
Wow.
It was just by chance.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, it was that, the window of your dive master job was very narrow / not available.
Yeah. And you know what? I just spent a year in Indonesia working as a dive instructor. And then my company put me up on a liveaboard where you live on a boat for 5 days and just dive every day, like multiple times a day, 3-4 times a day in Raja Ampat, like some of the best diving in the world. And then I went on a 2-week trip to French Polynesia, where I was like diving and just having the best time. I went with a DJ friend, and he was like playing a gig there. So I was just like, this was in 2020 as well.
Oh,
January, February, March. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I felt like it was the universe being like, okay, you've had your fun. Now sit your ass down and do something.
That is wild. Wow. That is also crazy that was the start of the year in 2020.
Yeah. I was flying back from French Polynesia. It was really setting in, and there were lockdowns and things like that. I came back to Melbourne the day before mandatory quarantine was put in place in Melbourne.
Oh, that was close.
So lucky. And I was going to sit down and do some like real work now. Guess I've had my fun. You know. So yeah, that's how my business started. It was born out of need and a desire to not do interviews for dietetics jobs. Because throughout my placement, I felt like it was not for me, because I didn't realize that at the time. I was like, I don't fit into this system. If I measure myself up against what the system values, I'm always going to feel like I come up short.
Very interesting. And what do you feel like was a model dietitian that the system wanted?
Like a
health practitioner.
Clinical dietitian who just follows all the rules. And
in the hospital.
Yeah. Like these are senior dietitians, like clinical educators, and the way that they spoke to them was just like, wow. I was like, no, fuck that. I don't want to be in that environment. Nor do I prove myself through these really boring, I don't know, but these like writing a long essay trying to prove myself why I fit into this criteria. There was something off about it that I was like, this is not for me. That's basically why I started my business.
Wow. So it sounds like there was a drive to be your authentic self, not forcing yourself into a specific mold that you see. I can only be successful if I squeeze into this shape.
Yeah, because honestly, I was so depressed when I was in school, all the schools, high school, university, because I just felt like I had to shrink myself to fit into what they deem as a good dietitian or good student dietitian. And I was just like, if I went into that, I think I would be depressed. That's just my vibe.
And so the word I used before to describe you was bold. Do you feel like that relates to you in your business now? Or maybe you don't use that word for yourself.
Yeah, not necessarily, because to me it's just being me. To me it's just like normal. Like there is no other way of being. It's just like, this is what I believe. It's just who I am. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily use bold actually.
It's kind of cool.
What about you? How did you start your business?
Maybe the similar point was that it wasn't like a super intentional thing. I feel like I've met people who have been very clear, I want to start my own business one day, even if we were in high school or something like that. And I would always think, that is so ambitious. I never saw myself as, I'm going to start my own business. Just like never ever.
Yeah.
I also didn't dream very big. Yeah. I feel like this is a sad reality when I think back, but as an example, when I was in high school thinking about careers, I remember asking, wow, if I'm supposed to do the job, married, house, kids thing, isn't parental or maternity leave something you have to think about? Like, what kind of job do you get where you have maternity leave and then you can go back to work at one point? This is me at 16.
Wow.
And I asked my uncle, and he was like, an accountant. The big four banks have good maternity leave. And I was like, I guess I'll be an accountant then.
Wow. That was what informed your like career decision
When I was at that age, year 11 kind of thing. And yeah, I didn't dream big at all. I thought that's all I wanted.
Did you want kids then? Did you
I think it was the automatic thing.
Yeah.
It was the
condition.
Yes, how I've been conditioned, what you just expect to do before I really questioned things.
The schooling system conditions us to just do what we're told. So it makes sense when you say, oh, I didn't think big. Come to think of it, neither. Like I wasn't thinking about in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, like where do I want to be, who do I want to be? We're conditioned to just be like, this is the next step. You go to uni, you get a job, you have a family, you have kids.
And all I knew that I was good at was studying, and that was how I found success. So it's like, I just want to keep following this pathway of success, and I think this is what it is. And it was only once I got into the workforce and I tried to follow these steps that I felt the same thing. Oh, it turns out being yourself does not lead to success. There really is a specific mold. Assertive, confident, opinionated, all of these things, none of them relate to merit, by the way. Which was the only thing I felt like I had going for myself is I work hard, but it turns out working hard is like 10% of the puzzle. So that's not taking me anywhere. And I was like, wow, what do I do? I thought this is what I had to do, is work hard, and now I'm working my butt off, getting nowhere. And I feel really sad.
At least you had it when you were young, but that's a reality shock for a lot of people.
Yeah, and once you really open your eyes to nepotism in the workplace, it's like, we have such different starting points. How am I ever supposed to have this kind of network? Or I thought a lot of things were based on your ability, and I was just like, not that was not what I saw. So
were you working in accounting?
Oh no, I still went down psychology.
Oh, okay.
So I in high school did not dream big. I was just like, what offers maternity leave? And then at the end of year 12, by that point, I had developed a little bit of consciousness to be like, I like psychology, even though it's a 6-year minimum pathway. And then I graduated from org psych, so I was very happy I followed something that I was interested in. And I was like, okay, I've landed, I've followed this pathway that should take me to success. But as I started working, it was like, I'm so sad. This is not what I thought. Like, I'm working really hard, but I'm not achieving the results.
Yeah, because you were working at a corporation.
Yeah, management consulting, which is like super corporate essentially. I don't even know how to define what consulting is, so I just feel like you got to look it up. It's supposedly problem solving. And I met amazing people, and it's no regrets, but I did not thrive in that environment. I think one of the clearest examples that showed me this is not the environment is when I was working on a project, working really hard, and I had someone join the team. I was a consultant, he was an intern, but he was everything that I was not. Tall, white, male, confident. And even though I was technically full-time and he's part-time and all those things, all of a sudden we were treated completely different. The project manager would ask him to take the lead, and then I was relegated to just take notes for each meeting. And then at the end of the meetings, the project manager would be like, okay, Leanne, so what did you learn in this meeting. And I was like, what? And I started getting all of this feedback about like basically not being enough. But I knew in my heart, I'm the same since this project started. But I could see the opinion of me change because now there's someone else that this project manager really likes. And he's a great guy as well. And he was my friend. So I know he wasn't backstabbing me or anything. The treatment of us just changed completely. She stopped believing in me. She's the project manager. She stopped giving me chances. And I was right about this hunch because after that project, this project manager continued to give lots and lots of opportunities and promote and advocate for this person. So yeah, I was right. She loved him from the beginning. And as soon as she decided that she didn't want me, I had no chance to succeed. And if anything, my feedback started getting worse, and then that affects your performance reviews, and then you don't get a raise, and then you don't get a promotion. It's just like all these things of the rat race. But it was these things that I wasn't even doing. It was just because of who I am. She doesn't like me anymore. What can I do? And I don't, like you said, I don't want to try and prove myself if I've seen that you've automatically changed your mind about me.
Do you feel like structural racism was a...
Definitely. I'm glad you called it out because when I started seeing the signs and trying to find people to talk to in the workplace, I think when I started talking to like managers, that's how naive I was. I brought it up to my manager, and I just kept hearing the same thing. It's not about race. I don't want you to think that this is about race. It's not. Shut it down. So I tried to shut it down, but I just kept seeing things and hearing things. And like when you see the evidence with your own eyes, then they want you to gaslight yourself to be like, no, it's not about race.
Just a little side tangent. I'm reading Why I'm Not Talking to White People About Race. Why I'm Not Talking About Race to White People. Yeah. One of those variations. We'll link it in the show notes. It details exactly that, the whole experience of it's not meritocracy, it's actually white supremacy, and whiteness gets preference, and then people of colour don't get opportunities automatically. And when you bring it up, everyone's just gaslighting you. No one wants to deal with it. Everyone just wants to keep this friendly, quote-unquote, peaceful facade on, and it gets brushed over. And the person who brings it up is labelled as the problem and gets edged out.
100%. That was exactly what happened. Not even just me, but like I saw it happen to people. I've heard of people who were on those like employee resource groups about diversity, and when they bring up like, oh, we could be doing this better or highlighting a problem, all of a sudden they're not invited to those meetings anymore. It's like, oh, it's an accident, but no.
Yeah.
Super blatant. And even my workplaces since then, I felt that same thing of race is playing a part here and I'm not safe to be myself. And myself is wanting to talk about it, wanting to talk about how cultural responsiveness is relevant here. There's not just one way to be right. And I'm learning now that this one way to be right is very linked to white supremacy.
So is that what informs your kind of area of expertise within your own business as it all looks like now?
Yes. So finally we get back to the question. Oopsies. It 100% links. And this is how I started it because I felt like I can't talk about these things anywhere. It's like no one will accept that this is what I want to talk about / I feel like it's just the truth. It's not just happening to me. It's happening to so many people. I didn't find anywhere that was like willing to have these conversations. So then it felt, I guess I just need to work for myself. I didn't go in planning to do this, but it felt a bit like a rejection. I'm sensitive to rejection. So it felt like I was rejected if anywhere. And then I was like, okay, I'll do this for myself and see how it goes.
Amazing. There's a thing where when you bring these things up, white people or white adjacent people, just like people with strong white supremacy within them, doesn't necessarily need to be a white person, tend to think, oh, they're just sensitive. But in reality, these are well-studied, well-documented phenomena and experiences. White supremacy thrives when we just shut it down, and when people of colour gaslit when we bring it up. And then they're made to feel like you are too sensitive, you are too difficult. You learn that it's easier and more peaceful, and you'll probably have more opportunities if you just shut it down and like not say anything about it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's probably very unconscious for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
But they just want compliant, they want to celebrate wins. That's why in Australia, we're the only country that calls the International Day for the Elimination of Racism. We call it Harmony Day. Yeah. It's just like this unwillingness to sit with the discomfort of we need to be better and let's just celebrate our wins instead and ignore the problem kind of attitude. And I don't know how to say this sensitively, so I'll just say it insensitively. But I used to be so excited about so many DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives. And I used all the time in my life where I was so excited about International Women's Day, and I would go to all these events, and then I think I just saw enough of what I just described, celebrating wins and not looking at the real problem. Yeah. And I was like, I guess this is not for me. I guess I don't fit in the space.
Oh, yeah, International Women's Day like triggered me. I remember I was at a co-working space, and this is like just veering off our topic of business now, but I was at a co-working space and they had like come to our International Women's Day lunch. I was like, okay, cute. That morning, they sent out a newsletter and they're like, we're celebrating the women in the comments, all white women, mostly very blonde. And then we had the lunch and there was all the members of the co-working spaces there. And then there were the cleaners who were also women just cleaning around us. And I'm like, are they not women? Why aren't they invited? And I made a complaint. Firstly, the white woman beaches, and then this, like not inviting the cleaners to International Women's Day lunch.
Yeah.
That was a very distinctly International Women's Day event. I'm like, yeah, this is a white women's day.
Yeah.
Even International Women's Day rallies are very white women centric.
Yes, it turns out where we are in this Western country, the people who take up a lot of the space or the voice being heard is just celebrating one type of being. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah. One type of liberation. Yeah.
I feel like it relates to both of us, has pushed us further into we need to be truly inclusive rather than just saying that we're inclusive.
And it's challenging because it is a lot to think about in terms of, inclusive of Black, Indigenous, people of colour. How can we be more inclusive, make services more accessible? How can we be more inclusive of people with disabilities, physical and intellectual? How can we be more inclusive with the LGBTQIA, I think I missed the letter T, community? How can we be inclusive of people in all different sizes? And it is a lot to think about, but then again, when you think about an individual person and how they would be affected, to me, when you serve the most vulnerable people in the community, that's when you're doing the real work. Because you see the most dire needs there that will be affecting other people as well.
100%. And I think the book Invisible Women, who I will link the author's name in the show notes, I just want to get it right, has a really great book, like a data-driven way to show how the world has not been catered for women, but then the benefits of if you do cater for the most vulnerable groups, everyone benefits.
Interesting. I've been recommended that book many, many times. It's on my long list. Okay, so where are you with your business now?
Oh my gosh. Even though it's been a couple years, I think it's taken me a while to step in and try to be more bold, more audacious with my vision, just believing in myself as well. I think I've had this little lingering feeling, or the narrative I told myself might have been I ran away from other types of jobs and then ended up the only place that will accept me is myself, and this is why I'm a small business owner and stuff. And so that's a sad narrative to have. I've been rejected everywhere, I don't fit in. So working with clients, and especially this focus on workplace issues, as well as how culture, gender, family, all the different intersections come into play, I feel like it's such a great match working with clients who are very willing and interested in talking about these topics. And I'm like, no, this is an important thing to talk about. It's important to make space for it. So I'm making space for people who want to talk about it, and I will make space for myself. So part of where I'm at now is being more emotionally engaged, choosing to have a different narrative that's more, I have something to offer and I will connect. I am connecting with the right type of person, and we can grow to support even more people and people in the community as well. I hope that starts to answer the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you were saying before about that narrative of I've just been rejected by everyone else, I think that's actually very relevant and very powerful, because there are other people who feel the exact same way. And in your profession, you have had the opportunity to create a space where you can talk about these topics that a lot of the world don't want to talk about, and other people feel rejected and alone with as well. And so it's out of your quote unquote rejection that you've had this desire to create a safer space for other people having similar experiences. And I think that's a really powerful thing.
Oh, thank you for your support and describing what I've been trying to do so well.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious about you. You've mentioned, I'm describing it as the Phoenix era of your business, like rising again, because you described that the first business you were burnt out and burnt down were your words. So where are you at with your business today?
Yeah, it's been a ride. I'm in a very interesting place with my business at the moment. I'm recreating my business. I've learned so much from my first business. I did a lot of amazing things and a lot of things right. And I also did a lot of things wrong. The time that I've had to reflect on that has given me so many insights on how to build a more sustainable business. Because my first business, I built it during COVID, and at that time there was nothing else to do. So I poured all my soul, all my energy into my business, and it grew really quickly. And it was like crazy, like from being a scuba instructor and being like, fuck society, fuck the world, to then having a full-blown business with people working in it. But it was too much for my nervous system to handle. My nervous system didn't have that time to adjust to it, because I had this mindset of more to grow. If it's not more than last month, it's not enough. Do more. And that's how I burnt out.
Wow.
And, very much in the capitalist mindset, capitalist energy, capitalist values then. And so now, having had the time to reflect on that, this attack on Gaza happened, and that was it's still such a big time for me to really reflect on my values and reflect on how do I actually feel about the values of capitalism. So that was like a real big breakthrough for me. So now I'm building my business in a way that's more sustainable and more centered around really helping people at the center of it, which I know sounds like so basic. And that was the start of my business. I was like, I don't care about money, I just want to help people. But then you adopt the values of people around you and the society's values when you don't define your own. And then I just got so caught up in making money, and I was like, that became the center. So it's just basically coming back to myself now and recentering, helping people. And that includes people who are from marginalized communities and how I can serve that. It's challenging in that there's a lot more considerations now, because I do have very strong values, and it's like doing something that's purely for my own profit doesn't feel aligned with me. And I know that it wouldn't be sustainable because I'd probably have a crisis. It feels exciting to now be growing this new business, even though it is a little bit slower. Because when you're moving away from the capitalist values, which is about growth fast, go,
extracting as much as you can.
Yes, exactly. To being centered and grounded in community and helping and doing it in a sustainable way, it doesn't grow as quickly.
There's something I really resonate with. I didn't have a first business, but when I was more on that corporate side, and it did feel like a very hustle culture, grind mindset, girl boss, all of those badges of honor and everything. I was part of the rat race too. and I was very dissatisfied when I was not meeting milestones as quickly as other people, and achievement oriented as well. So I was like, I want to get a promotion first, all of those things. I feel like I had so much hustle in that time that by the time I had learned all these lessons and started my business, I actually asked my supervisor, like, do you think I ran out of discipline? Like, where did it go? Do I not have any hustle left in me?
Oh my god, I'm totally thinking that. Yeah.
But thinking about it now, I think it's a reaction to what I've learned. I want to take those lessons of, you know what, it's just not sustainable. And those values don't align with me either. When it's more, like you said, every month needs to be bigger than the last.
Yeah.
How much margin of energy does that leave you at the end of the day?
Yeah.
I think it's not necessarily that I have zero discipline left. I still wake up early, but it is that I just don't want to fall back into that trap, because when you're in it, it actually is really hard to wake up and question, wait, what am I doing? Do I want this?
Yeah. And yet, like you said, you don't feel satisfied. It's never enough. You never feel good enough. You're never where you want to be. There's always more. And so you work harder, and that is the path to burnout. And I feel like there's so many people our age that have burnt out. Like, I'm pretty sure most people our age, our generation, have burnt out.
Yeah.
Because that's what was instilled in us. You're not enough. You need to do more. Be your girl boss, work hard, hustle, and then later you'll have everything and you'll be cruising.
That's the dream that we're sold. And this is a bit of a generalization, but something I felt/saw was that pre-COVID, when people face burnout, it was okay, you have to take a month off, 2 to 3, maybe 6 months. That's like a dramatic break. But now in my counselling work as well, I feel like it's been more normal to take 1 year off or 2 years off. And that says something about how burnt out the community, that actually your body needs more than a year to recover.
Yeah. I needed a year and a half at least. And I've had the same thoughts. Do I just have no discipline anymore? Do I just have no capacity to work anymore? But I think if you've gone extreme on one end to the point where you're burning out, you have to go to the extreme of the other end where you're just like, okay, I need just complete rest.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when you've given yourself that time and space, you find, if you kind of are reflective and like redefine your values. But I've also heard stories and met people who weren't able to reflect and into the hustle culture and have burnt out a year later.
100%. Repeating the same cycles. If you aren't able to pause and really sit with the realities. It's like, often it's very harsh truths. So,
yeah, it's so harsh to realize that, you feel like you're never enough, and that means that you're not worthy as you are, and you have to sit with that, and you have to realize that doing more will never make you feel like you're enough unless you decide that you're just enough as you are. And that's a fucking hard thing to do.
It's so hard. And often a lot of the journey is solo, but I think there is so much power in finding people healing together.
Yeah.
Just knowing you're not alone.
Absolutely. I see that firsthand in my group programs, where we often think that our problems are ours and ours alone. The problem is me. The problem is because I don't have resilience, and that's why I can't keep hustling. Everyone else seems to be doing it fine. And so you think that you're the problem, and you keep on internalizing that. But then when you speak to someone about it, when you think you're the problem, that's shame, right? There's something wrong with me. But then when you speak to someone and someone's like, the other person's, I experienced the exact same thing. You know, I hustled really hard, and then I burned out, and I couldn't move for weeks or months. And they're like, and they're like, my boss just gave me more work, and I couldn't say no, and I just felt upset my boss, and I felt like I wouldn't get a promotion if I said no. And you're like, you're having that same experience. You're feeling that same thing. And you realize, maybe the problem's not me. Maybe the problem is the system.
And they will do everything in their power to stop you from realizing that.
Yeah.
Actually, that was the moment my eyes really opened in the corporate workplace, was when I had a mentor figure who is a business owner herself say, you are not the problem. Take a step back. And I just remember being very resistant to that. No, I am the problem. I'm not assertive enough. I'm just like not enough. But it seemed to just stick with me, that idea of, wait, what if I'm not the problem? And that there's these patterns that are happening, and it's not just happening to me. but people who were similar to me, marginalized, racial backgrounds, different personality type. That's when I started to see it. And then, yes, took me on this pathway.
Yeah. And like what you were saying about healing in communities, like absolutely. You heal so much faster. I think that my clients in group programs heal so fast because when they're like, oh, I was binge eating because I had this trigger, and someone else says, oh yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that. And you're like, oh, so my body's not broken. That just happens. That's a pattern. Oh, that means that I can, if I just deal with that trigger, then I can have a better outcome. And then they do it and it works. They stop binge eating. And then someone else says, oh, because I have that problem as well. So if I just deal with that trigger, then I can have a better outcome. And then they do it. And then it's just, you're sharing wisdom. Yeah. You're sharing your wins. You're sharing your lessons. You're sharing your failures. And you're just doing it together.
Yes, powerful to heal together versus you can do it alone, but it might take you, 5 times as long.
Yeah. And you're still like, oh, like, I think it is like a problem with me. And you try to do something that doesn't work. Like, oh, no, it must be a problem with me. And then if you have a coach, you can guide them and show them that there's still that narrative. And the narratives are really strong in our minds. So if you have one person to reflect it and you're like, okay, I'll consider that. But if you have like 2, 3, 4 people to reflect it and you're like, oh, I get it. It's not just one person telling me this thing. Maybe, they have an agenda, but it's people talking about their own experiences. So we've gone down many different side quests on our chat today. I want to know what's next for you in your business.
What's next is dreaming more audaciously, and by dreaming, I mean manifesting. So not just my daydreams. I want to connect and collaborate with more like-minded people like yourself, find the right community, and I feel like I'm speaking in really broad abstract terms, but essentially it's connect with the right people and keep talking about these topics, culture, work, mental health, how it all comes together, help people to not feel so alone, offer what I can offer, counseling and coaching, collaborate with other people to find other ways to connect, but rather than living in that old narrative that I said, I'm not enough or I've been rejected everywhere, it's more about I'm going to connect with the right people and we're going to support each other.
Yes.
How about you?
On the similar lines with more collaborations with people who want to be talking about the nuances of these experiences. I realized that in my first business, I grew it quickly, but it was very isolating and I had that feeling for a long time, and that was probably part of my burnout as well, because it was like all focused on the objective and goals, as opposed to making it an enjoyable process. And to me, connecting with like-minded people, soulful people is something that's really fulfilling for me. So sometimes even if we just have a coffee and chat about whatever we chat about, things that aren't related, that makes it an enjoyable part of the process. And then we aren't just like achieving upwards, but we're growing in our breadth as well. And our richness. So yes, collaboration is definitely something that I have on the horizon. What you were saying about community as well, growing community is definitely, I think we have very similar visions actually. Growing a community and creating offerings that are very community centered, I think is important because I think that the work that we do is very resistant to the status quo or trying to change the status quo. And that is an incredible thing, but it's also very exhausting and unsustainable to do it ourselves as solo individuals. And so when we come together as a community and we strengthen our bonds and we strengthen our connections, that's when we're so much more powerful together.
I completely agree. So I think that's the message and the call out that we want to finish on. From everything that we've learned and how much we've learned from each other in community and in connection, that's what we hope for everyone as well. So the call out is there if you want to collaborate, connect, just reach out and we look forward to connecting.
Thank you for sipping along as we've been spilling the jasmine tea. Whether you're still trying to find your path or you're rebuilding after burnout, or you're just so tired of squeezing yourself to fit into places that were never made for you, we hope that this episode has made you realize or remember that you are not the problem, the mold is, and you don't have to break it alone. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend who is on their own adventure to figure it out. You never know what a conversation or collaboration it might start. How could I almost forget to announce that VN and I will be hosting our very first Spilling the Jasmine Tea community event for our end of season 1 tea party. It will be held in Naarm, Melbourne in person, and we will drop more details soon. So subscribe to our Substack to get the tea while it's hot. If you thought that this tea was hot and tasty, we would love it if you would leave a review for Spilling the Jasmine Tea podcast on wherever you get your podcasts, so that we can keep these conversations going in the Asian diaspora community. We'll be back in a fortnight for our final episode of Spilling the Jasmine Tea this season. See you then.